Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Summit for China. We have got a big, exciting day of Dota 2 action. It doesn't get any better than this. Two winner bracket semifinals. We've got Vici Gaming taking on CDEC, followed by eHome versus Newbie. We're starting things off with that first series, Vici versus CDEC here in the Summit for China. We're in the winner bracket semifinals, and coming to this one, two very evenly matched up teams. You've got your TI5 runner-ups taking on Vici Gaming, who have picked up Burning in the post-TI reshuffle, replacing How on the carry role. I'm Gods from Beyond the Summit, and joining me for this best of three series, none other than Lyrical Dota. Lyrical, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling alive. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready for some craziness. I was getting a chance to check out some of the drafting that we saw out of Vici last time around, and they were running some pretty crazy stuff going on just the past couple of days here. I think I saw a Morphling with an Aghanim Scepter. Is that really a thing?
You know, they were doing all kinds of shenanigans. They had the Morphling Ags with making the hybrids, and they had like double tombstones going in a team fight. He was making hybrids of his ally Alchemist. He was farming with an Alchemist replicate to give Grievous Greed money to the Alchemist. It was nuts. So I want to see more of that from Vici Gaming. We'll hop right in the draft and let you guys see what the two teams are concocting here. Lyrical, what would be like your dream scenario of like a pick that you don't get to see too often that Vici Gaming could pull out?
You know, I think that obviously, like we just talked about there, the Morphling is something that I feel like has a ton of potential. He's gotten buffed and changed in the past couple of patches. Morphed, you could potentially say there. And most recently in the last patch, he ended up getting the buffs to the Adaptive Strike as well. Be doing out a little bit more damage at the first level, up to 50 instead of the 20. Other heroes around that I've seen picked up recently that are somewhat interesting has been the Kunkka that was recently played by Smash in the South American team. And he did a really good job of it in the mid lane, prioritizing sort of the same way that we've seen Ember Spirit played, where you get a couple of points in the Syrian Chains, as well as being able to toss on out a Sleight of Fist and use the hero as a long-range initiator. So I think that being able to prioritize fighting in the early game by using your spells to get long-range initiations and take the fights that you want is a thing that I think is going to be happening more and more often as people pick these interesting and unique heroes. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, Vici Gaming, they start things off with that Undying we saw yesterday. I don't know if it's like you just do the strategy. I mean, they're such an experimental team where I feel like they love going from one crazy strategy to the next. It reminds me a bit of like the old Team DK that Ice was on. They would just play countless heroes. They were so versatile. So not sure if we'll just see a repeat of a similar strategy from yesterday, but did work, and it would have been something CDEC had their eyes on as far as trying to deal with and counter here going into this best of three. So we'll see what they get as their opening two picks in response to the Undying.
Well, and the other thing here as well is that honestly, Undying is such a strong pick. Even if you don't go for the crazy Morphling shenanigans, it's, I think, a pretty decent way to start on off your draft, and a good offlane, or potentially being able to be versatile and move on over into that support role. You can be aggressive with you if you want as well. Tusk obviously still in the pool, and picking up this Ember Spirit here, another hero that is relatively versatile. I've been seeing him run, you know, more and more often in that in the sort of safe lane role. I feel like wanting to prioritize a good amount of farm, but occasionally in that mid role. Is there a place that you feel like you like this hero more often, or does it depend upon the matchup?
I prefer him in the safe lane most games. I think when you first pick him, especially, the safe lane is always where you're going to have the better guarantee of him getting his early levels, and that's the biggest thing with Ember. He doesn't have to free farm his lane. He just needs to be guaranteed some amount of levels. So CDEC get the Tusk to go with the Ember as an opener. Really kind of picking what we're seeing a lot in the 6.85. Ember's really risen as a top pick, really good at playing that high tempo, constant fighting playstyle. And that suits CDEC's playstyle perfectly. I think aggressive is just like the perfect playstyle to match what Ember Spirit can bring to the table. And I think Tusk also works really well with that playstyle. So we'll see what Vici Gaming do to kind of fight that aggression. They've gone right back for the Alchemist Undying. If I'm CDEC, I'm just like, let's just ban this freaking Morphling. Don't give him Morphling now.
Yeah, well, you never know. They might not have seen it, and of course, if you do end up banning them, if you ban out the Morphling, then you're leaving somebody else there in the pool as well. And lots of heroes still around that can make their presence felt in these games. We do also have the Bounty Hunter banned out, as is the Queen of Pain and the Gyrocopter. No defensive supports taken, which is something that I feel like is a little bit interesting. You know, oftentimes by this stage in the game, you would at least see a Dazzle or maybe a Winter Wyvern banned on out or picked potentially. Also the Darkseer, conspicuously not being touched so far.
Yeah.
Is this sort of more of a playstyle thing, do you think, or is this based upon the meta in the Chinese scene?
I think it's the latter. LD commented, came up to the same thing. He's like, why aren't we seeing Darkseer? And it seems to be a regional thing for the Chinese teams where they don't value Darkseer as high as the Western teams are doing so. And similarly, there's some heroes they value a lot more. Spirit Breaker being one of the big ones. We're seeing Spirit Breaker suddenly a top ban and a first pick or second pick hero in the Chinese scene, and largely either ignored or picked up third or fourth or fifth in a draft over in the Western scene. So I think there's, I mean, you go back even like a year, 2 years ago, it's always been the case where each scene and region will kind of develop their own metagames, largely through what I can only imagine is the scrims they play. Because, I mean, Vici Gaming before yesterday had not played a match in over a month. So their entire practice had come from scrims. So from that point of view, they're only scrimming against Chinese teams. They can't scrim against Western teams because of the ping issues, and they only ever play them on LAN, and that's where we'll see 2, even 3 different metagames kind of develop. You've got the one in China, in Asia, you've got one in Europe, then you've got one in America, and each kind of region will draft and pick slightly different, and we'll see different heroes get prioritized. And then when they meet all together on LAN, they figure out which playstyle's the best. They sometimes kind of merge their 2 regions, may merge and find some similarities, take a bit from each other, but often you'll see which of the regions had it right, because they'll be the teams doing the best, and then everyone else will start and trying to adapt and play towards that metagame.
That is freaking awesome. I love the sound of it. It just got goosebumps thinking about all these melding of the minds together. That sounds really cool. Ancient Apparition is also going to be picked up here by CDEC, and a great pick to be able to deal with the Alchemist. I'm also going to mention now, this does leave open the opportunity to potentially be running that Ancient Apparition Veno combo, which everybody just loves to hate, particularly if you're playing against it. And I think that it's kind of a sort of awkward situation for Vici now, because you can't necessarily try to block the pick with the Veno. While he does have a good Ags upgrade, I don't know if the hero on its own is necessarily going to be the strongest here, particularly considering Vici are sort of missing a few of the key lockdown things that they might need to be able to deal with this Ember Spirit here. Not sure if that's a thing. Have we been still seeing the Veno Ancient Apparition in China?
Not as much. I feel like the teams really like AA. It's always been a traditionally Chinese pick, I guess. When the hero before lately, it's become very popular in the Western scene. We saw a lot of it out of the American squads, especially during Frankfurt Majors, the qualifiers. But before that, going back a year or two, it was always the Chinese teams who loved to run these like AA trial lanes, play a more slow-paced game, use the AA Ice Blast to try and snipe kills on the map. And well, enough about the AA. It's Morphling. Vici Gaming are going back. AA is nice against the Morphling because you can't actually morph strength when you have the Ice Blast effect on you. So if you're ever trying to kill a morph, it's quite difficult to do so. I mean, no, it's quite difficult for the morph to use the morph strength to stay alive. But you talked about lockdown against Ember, and morph actually gives it. And that's where I feel like Vici Gaming are like, sweet, this strategy worked yesterday. Let's do it again. And on top of that, they've got some lockdown which they needed to keep the Ember in place. This adaptive strike, when it's maxed out, is a huge stun. We're talking at a 4.25 second stun at level 4 when you're in that strength morph.
Yeah, with a 10-second cooldown as well. Absolutely disgusting in terms of what it's able to do. Of course, it is now a projectile. It does move, I believe, at 1150 speed, if I'm not mistaken. And it's kind of one of those things where you can dodge it if you're an Ember Spirit, but you got to be really quick on the trigger. Yeah. And if you're stunned up beforehand, you're still probably going to be picked up by it. And the Shadow Fiend also going to be picked up here. A hero that's pretty good at being able to catch up and farm, but if they're not able to control these bounty runes pretty effectively as against this Alchemist, it could be a bit of a problem. Juggernaut also going to be the pick. Maybe double healing wards we might be seeing?
I mean, there's a lot of healing heroes against an Ancient Apparition, but we can see, as far as the hybrids go, the replicates, I mean, early game, like replicating an Alchemist when he has Radiance means you've got mass farming capabilities for both Morphling and Alchemist. There's also a weird little bug where if you have Ag Scepter, you can hybrid the Undying and your Tombstone's actually invisible, which I believe is a bug. Probably it hasn't really been acknowledged as one, but something that may be fixed. So I think the ideal hybrid target is going to be the Undying for a team fight, having the double Tombstone. But the Jug as well, like if your team's all low after a fight and the Jug's healing ward's on cooldown, you make that hybrid and then you bring out the healing ward. So it is a possibility as well.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right, though. The Undying Tombstone is just too good to pass on up, and being able to spawn double the zombies, double the fun.
And also
just
you
sounds
get, I
terrifying.
believe you get the Aghanim's Decay. If Morph has, that's the thing. So the hybrid from the Morphling, when you make an illusion of a teammate, you don't get their ultimate ability. So generally it's the ultimates that is upgraded by an Aghanim Scepter, but there's a few unique heroes, Undying being one of them, whose main 3 spells get upgraded. In his case, the Decay. So an Ag's Morphling making an Undying hybrid, suddenly you've got not only a Tombstone, but you've got a 10 strength Decay. This is so powerful on a Morphling. It means Undying doesn't even have to farm the Aghanim Scepter. You've got Decay coming out from an Undying, taking away 4 strength. Then you've got Decay from the Morphling hybrid, taking away another 10 strength. There goes all of your HP. It is brutal to verse this.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about there, Morphling does occasionally, obviously if you're going to be going in the offlane role, you're not going to be getting it as often, but I was thinking about Manta style there, and if you're stealing a ton of strength and then you actually have an Undying illusion potentially get created after you steal a ton of strength, maybe you get like 200 hit Undying illusions or something going on. It's a little bit clowny, but
yeah,
you know what?
That sounds like something I want to try.
Exactly. Anyways, Lion also going to be banned out, as is finally the little purple man, Mr. Darkseer, and Abaddon going to be the other pick.
Okay, so this is picked up as a counter to the Adaptive Strike. You can just take off that long 4.25 second stun, which is on the short cooldown. So we saw Abaddon picked up a lot against like Morphlings in the past, as well as heroes like Mirana. If you're throwing these long stuns and Abaddon's there, you just immediately purge it off with the Aphotic Shield.
Great. Great little combo there. And Winter Wyvern, the last pickup. So another defensive support, another healing hero. Might have committed a lot to this one at this point.
Ooh. Yeah, there's a lot of heals against an AA. This is very much not something that Vici Gaming can expect to rely on in the team fights if Q is on point with his Ice Blast, which typically he's pretty good at. Interesting, it's a core Abaddon as well. Garda does normally play the Tusk. CDEC run more of the support Tusk and then the off lane, although I have seen, I believe, XC play it here or there. But they want to put more farm and level priority in the Abaddon. Likely see him kind of go for a lot of those utility items, fast mech, Vlads, whatever it may be for the team. Whatever they feel is going to be an answer to the Vici Gaming side and help kind of pressure the Alchemist especially.
Well, I think that the other great thing that, you mentioned there is pressuring the Alchemist. It's definitely going to be the name of the game here. And with a Tusk on your team, you're already going to be able to control those bounty runes potentially a little bit more effectively. It seems to me that they have a pretty good lineup for being able to contest at level 1 here. And I'm curious to see if that Shadow Fiend's going to end up taking a level and raise to be able to fight if he has to.
For those of you wondering, the stand-in Walnuts is Ice, notorious for playing on different names, using his manager's account even from time to time. This is just typical Ice trolling. Or sometimes there's actually perfect world issues where he can't connect using his original account. So whatever it is Ice competing for Vici Gaming here, even if he is not tagged up properly. So.
And just moving forward, ready to get a little bit fresh with this side over here. He's just not afraid of anybody, apparently.
I guess
we do
with a waveform out, he can escape from most anything. He shouldn't, even if he gets caught out, like if he gets ice shards blocked, he waves over it. If there's a snowball, he can outrun it with the waveform. So pretty safe for him to go for that kind of early scouting movement.
Definitely. Boots first on the Undying as well. Ready to party if he needs to. It does look... Do you think that they're going to run this as an aggressive dual lane?
With the Undying? Very likely. I think Undying is going to offer some... especially with Ember being fairly weak in lane. I think that is quite a high chance that they do that.
Couple of tangos eaten up. They're ready to party now. Acid Spray does drop down. Raise is going to be used as well. Super's dropping a little bit low. Is going to be able to get taken on out there very early. Shadow Fiend, meanwhile, falling as well. Maybe going to be able to get a kill here on Aggressive. He does have the Aphotic Shield. It breaks, and the Morphling gets the double kill. Nicely done there. Continuing to battle now. 3 heroes dead already, and we're seeing more up in the middle of all of them. Wave 4 on through for the triple kill start.
7 decays. This Undying has 1100 HP. He also has 90 base damage. He's so massive. Make it 8 decay stacks. Holy crap. I've never seen more decays at like 30 seconds into a game than just now.
That was pretty amazing. A good start, and definitely a good way to start the pressure early. I don't think you can get a better start for the Morphling either.
Yeah.
670 gold. Just picking up his boots now as well. He is very, very comfortable.
3-0 killing spree for Morphling. He also got the bounty rune. Alchemist, I really like the move from Alchemist to go for the acid there. It was a full-on 4v5. That acid made a massive difference. Without it, Vici Gaming would not have been able to win the fight like they did. And there were so many heroes on the bounty rune. There was such a low chance that he gets it. And it just meant the Ice Morphling could just go for it and not care about taking it. So all in all, great decision-making from Vici Gaming in that level 1 fight.
I also love right here, out of this Morphling, as soon as the snowball comes in, he waveforms away and then knows the exact distance where he's going to be able to get a second auto attack off on top of the Tusk as soon as the snowball finishes off. So really, really cool there. Also worth noting as well that Tusk is using the Vici Gaming set, so a little bit of blood coming out on the set against his team.
I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign for the Tusk.
Definitely. So mid lane, Alchemist doing perfectly fine here. Does have 11 last hits up against the 10 of the Shadow Fiends, so no real pressure is going to be able to be applied until we see some type of rotation over into this lane, I would imagine. It seems pretty good, and coming to contest the rune right from the start, Morphling's going to have to pick up that bounty rune, not going to be able to leave it for his Alchemist friend.
Yeah, that level 1 stun just preventing Garda, not long enough to get Garda the bounty rune there, and bottom lane there is a haste rune, which for now, Wyvern just camping next to. Looks like he'll pick it up as well. So swings towards mid lane, and Shiki needs to be careful. Has bottle charges and won't be going down here, but FY maybe just considering some Arctic Burn harass.
Yeah, certainly. I think that it's always a little bit scary considering you've got Arctic Burn and a level 2, the Splinter Blast up as well. But I feel like a lot of the action is going to be happening up in this top lane here. Just being able to see how well Morphling and Undying are going to be able to deal with this sort of snowball combination with Chilling Touch and everything else that comes out from their side.
And importantly for Vici Gaming, you talk about how much may happen at top. They de-warded the lane, so it makes it a bit harder for CDEC to control the off-lane Morphling as well as Undying. And that just helps know where the supports are moving around while denying information from CDEC. So Ice just looping around, keeping tabs of the support, and we'll come back in top. Looking to at least harass aggressive here in lane. Aggressive, finding decent farm despite the bad level 1 fight that CDEC had.
Well, the other thing there as well is he's actually been able to block that camp twice now with his body, so still no spawn on this one despite the fact they de-warded it. Pretty nice little play there to make sure that he's able to still get these levels and no pulls will be coming through this day at least. There is a stack up now, so trying to do that whenever they possibly can for their Shadow Fiend to make sure he's able to have some amount of farm as we move forward, and should actually be fine in lane as well though. So I think that just generally trying to get any type of advantage to build towards an early item so that way they can pressure this Alchemist.
I really like the point you make about the pull camp, because that's one of the key things to do in a 3v2 lane, or like against these annoying aggro dual lanes, is to use the pull camp to your advantage, to starve them of experience especially, and then you take away farm of course too, but mostly XP. And a hero like Morphling needs XP more than farm. Same for the Undying. You're just looking to get experience out of this dual lane, and you can't deny the XP from them when they keep on blocking this pull camp, which you want to be using to stack, double pull, and then take away the creeps from Vici Gaming. So again, we see Ice 4 minutes in, he's blocked it once more, and will just continue to do so it seems, and CDEC can't do anything about this dual lane, just staying nearby, contesting the lane, getting experience. Even with aggressive free farming, it feels like Vici Gaming are in some ways winning, or at least getting lots out of this off lane.
Certainly. The other thing to keep in mind as well is that Undying, whenever possible, is leaving Morphling to get a little bit more of that EXP if at all possible. Also, FY moving on through the jungle, going to stack on up for the Alchemist as well. And the Illusion Runes mean that we're going to be getting several stacks going out at the same time. Always nice to be able to get that when you're a hero that wants to be able to start burning into your farm. And speaking of burning, we're having him down in the bottom lane getting relative free farm up against this Abaddon. Not a whole lot that you can do to really contest it at this point, I feel like, with this hero.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, looking at this draft strategy, we haven't even talked about Burning or Jug at all. He just feels like the icing on the cake. Like, this overall strategy doesn't necessarily involve him all too much, but he's playing a carry that can fight and get involved early. We're not going to see a passive jungle farming Juggernaut this game, I don't feel. He's gone for a fast phase boots, is leveling up the Blade Fury. In some ways, it feels like Jug can be the new Gyrocopter. Mid lane, they're going to snowball in. Super turns around, drops the Acid Spray, takes a few raises, but Shiki in trouble in the Acid Spray with the Morphling TP. He goes down. And Burning even TPing in as well with an Omni Slash, so you've got to be very careful mid if you're CDEC.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit, a lot committed there with the Juggernaut coming in as well. But Morphling now on a dominating streak at just under 6 minutes into this game. He is very, very comfortable with where he's at. And once again, just going to sit by this little magic tree here and block out the camp every single minute. He's been able to block it.
Spot on. Omni Slash will find the Tusk. Burning just knew someone was going to go for that 6-minute bottom rune. And that's an early kill for Jug. He's farming well. He's just winning this bottom lane without any supports. You kind of talked about how FY is stacking and helping out the mid lane, provide just jungle farm for the Alchemist, and the Undying's been top, so Burning's just won this bottom lane, found a kill, all by himself. He has been very independent this game.
Well, and now we're starting to see some rotations to potentially deal with this. The Tusk, although only level 2, is going to come down here and try and potentially apply a little bit of harassment. I think that this is the sort of downside of taking the Abaddon to deal with the mid-game Morphling doing a lot of damage. But again, if you're a Gardener at this point, it seems very difficult for you to really contest the farm at all of this Jug, who's already level 6. He did just use the Omni Slash on the Tusk himself, but I don't know, it's difficult.
Yeah, so and from here, Burning has maxed out Blade Fury. I mean, kind of point I was trying to make earlier is that Jug now, in some ways, a new Gyrocopter. When you get this maxed out Blade Fury, it does 750 magic damage, roughly. Does get reduced, of course, but the actual uptime for this spell is about like 25 to 30%. It lasts for 5 seconds, has an 18-second cooldown. You can use this so continuously that this Blade Fury is just like the new Rocket Barrage in a lot of ways, if you're going to go for this build that we're seeing Burning do, and it really does feel like the right way to play the hero nowadays.
Yeah, certainly. Another interesting thing, what do you think about Ice Ice's skill build here? He's gone for 3 in wave form, 2 in morph, hasn't really taken any in the adaptive strike yet, planning to save it for the later stages, I guess.
I think it's okay. I saw this is the same build he did yesterday when he played this offlane morphling, and I initially was like, huh, this is not what I expected. You lane and farm better because you've got waveform to farm and even go for kills. So you've got a lot more kill potential with damage output from waveform. The adaptive strike gives you a good stun, but the stun itself doesn't get you kills if you've got no follow-up damage. So I don't think it makes a big difference. Ultimately, Morphling doesn't come online until he's like level 7, 8, 9, has points in waveform and the stun, and I imagine we will see him go back for the stun fairly soon. I don't think he even... At latest level 8, maybe even earlier. Like, I think last time he got just 3 points in waveform.
Yeah. Well, pretty cool there, and it's always good to see some type of innovation. I'll mention as well that finally the camp gets unblocked and they're going to be able to make a pull happen as the Undying Replicate ends up moving on over there. We do end up getting a little bit of a rotation now. They are going to have the Tusk over here, Snowball as well as the Remnant forward. Shadow Fiend with the follow-up raises should be enough. No, but the Replicate away. Oh, he's going to end up falling to the Shadow Fiend right click from afar.
SF got the kill? Huh? I'm just so confused what happened there.
So the Replicate away and then the right click from the Shadow Fiend turned around in mid-air and then ended up following over
I
to
saw
kill
him make a Replicate. I just assumed he would send it. I wasn't keeping tabs of where he sent it, so I assumed he'd just like send it back to the fountain. I'm like, oh, he'll just replicate out, and then he replicates and he's suddenly next to an AA. What? And like you said, the SF right click following him through the Replicate to get the last hit. That was absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I was going to mention about just sort of the whole sort of innovation in the build, 6.85 is a month old tomorrow. So we're really starting to see several teams come with their own new ideas of what it is that this patch is going to be about. We've been seeing innovative builds across multiple metas, and I'm really excited to see how this continues to expand as we move further into this patch. 4-man smoke up here in the tier 2 tower in the mid. The only person showing is the Ancient Apparition in the lane. So if you're Juggernaut at this point, you might start to get your spidey senses tingling.
This is the classic CDEC 10-minute smoke. They bring in aggressive as well as Shiki this time. So both SF and Ember. If you're committing both your carries to this, you've got to find a kill. And in theory, you want multiple out of this. Ember is great at finding one kill and then kind of jumping onto the next using the fire remnants. It's Alchemist they want. He just bought his relic, though, so he may not even lose any money here. Can they even find him? He's juking. He's jiving. It's the Undying who now scouts him out. Super may actually escape this one.
Tombstone is down as well. Aggressive taking a little bit more damage. Juggernaut is going to be able to finally finish off the Shadow Fiend. No Requiem death damage onto him through the Blade Fury. The Alchemist, meanwhile, dies as well as Fenrir chases away the Abaddon. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to get the Ember Spirit as he TPs away, and Abaddon making his way out as well.
That's so bad for CDEC. They smoke up 4 heroes, they trade an SF for an Alchemist, and the Alchemist only lost maybe like 150 gold there because he just bought his Relic, so I feel like they timed that smoking to try and catch the Alch before he had a Relic. And once he spent the money for it, he doesn't really lose all too much there, so it doesn't really delay him that much. It does slow down time where he'd like to be farming up for his Radiance, but most importantly, Vici Gaming get a counter kill. They kill the SF. So
yeah, that's huge.
Not worth it at all for CDEC.
I mean, the other thing there, you talk about missing out on farming time for the Alchemist. You're also missing out on farming time for the Ember. You're also missing out on farming time for the Shadow Fiend through the whole time that they were smoke ganked over there and moving into position to make it happen. So, yeah, absolutely. And Morphling now starting to move into that level 8. He's going to start to get these more points in Adaptive Strike now. Only 1 so far, but does have the 4 in Waveform, so he can still dole out a lot of damage. And depending upon who he ends up bringing over here, there's the stun. It's just so frustrating to play against. They could maybe get a kill on this Ember.
Yeah, it's maybe Wyvern for now headed top. They've got Winter's Curse as well. Wyvern is actually level 8. FY's got a decent amount of experience this game somehow. He's 2-0-3, so a lot of it goes back to the fact he's been involved in kills, hasn't actually died when there's been a team fight breaking out. Looks like he's considering finding an opening on top lane. Aggressive's Ember Spirit. Has to be careful. Winter's Curse, Adaptive Strike, and any kind of one hero TP in, someone like a Juggernaut could lead to his demise.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, CDEC also are going to be skulking around through the jungle. With the Tusk and the AA, the Shadow Fiend did bottle up a DD, so if people leave this mid lane, this tower is going to fall very swiftly. And as we were talking about the Wyvern potentially being able to do something, he does rotate back towards that mid lane and leaves alone, at least for the moment, the Ember Spirit. I feel like that rotation was probably more about making sure the Morphling was safe than trying to actually get a kill off as originally thinking.
Well, Super now going to finish his Radiance in the jungle here. Gets a Mud Golem camp, which is probably the best you can get as an Alchemist. 6 units, lots of Grieval's Greed, and there's his Radiance. 12 minutes, 50 seconds in. That's a scary thought, especially with the Morphling able to make replicates of him to help his farm. I think Ice, yes, they went for the Midas. We'll do the same thing here. The replicate scaling means you want to have the leveled up replicate as early as possible because the duration increases, so you have more uptime on the Alchemist replicate to farm with. So very much he wants to get levels more than he needs farm. He's going to pick up the Midas recipe and then go back for the Aghanim Scepter afterwards.
Definitely, and that seems to be able to make a lot of sense there, and I'm very curious how they're going to end up scaling on in the next little bit with it. If you get a couple pings out here, Splinter Blast is going to be able to tear through these creep waves. The Shadow Fiend does activate the DD in the mid lane as well. Doesn't look like they're really going to be able to chase them out of the jungle. But I thought that actually we might see the Shadow Fiend stick around. Looks like he's moving up top with the mechanism. I'm just going to leave it alone for now. It's kind of odd. I was wondering if he was going to try and push down this tower or maybe try and make something happen up to the top, but nothing so far as the Ice Blast has already been committed.
They find the Morph there and snowball Ice Blast. He just dodges the Ice Blast with ease, and there's no follow-up from an Ember Spirit. It really feels like CDEC are getting nothing done this game. I don't really get the impression they can go late game well. They've got SF and Ember Spirit, decent late game carries, but just seeing this strategy in action yesterday, it feels like once you get your items, and if you get the space to do it, you just take control of the game. Using this Ags Morphling, the Alchemist farm rate, you've got 2 Alchemists on your team with the Morphling replicate to farm with. It's just insane. So I don't really feel like CDEC can keep up in farm if they play this slow tempo, which right now they are doing. And this just is not the CDEC way. They're a much more aggressive team that likes to take early fights, use all their smokes. And they've tried that. They've used a couple of smokes. They just haven't actually converted them into kills, into towers.
Well, we'll see if they're going to be able to make something happen now. It seems like this would be a decent timing to try and make their move. They do have the mechanism up on the Shadow Fiend. He is going to also be able to sit here and apply pressure. Does have the TP scroll if he wants to come over and commit. Snowball on in to FY. There's an A-Blast onto several as well. Blade Fury into the middle of them though. Remnant forward onto FY. He is going to end up falling. Meanwhile, the Tusk taking a lot of damage. A little Omni Slash solo onto the Shadow Fiend is going to end up being able to walk away from this one though. I do believe no waveform through with the Undying in all of them. So much value being dealt out. Q ends up falling. Alchemist is in all of them, and Aggressive might end up falling here as well. Demolishing at this point. Vici Gaming looking very strong.
That was I saw the Omni Slash come out. I was like, okay, this won't be enough to kill the SF. And I was like, wait a second. Jug's actually level 11. He's already got the level 2 Omni Slash. Burning. They timed that smoke gank so well. It wasn't just like, okay, we're ready to fight now. It was, we've got level 2 Omni Slash. This doubles the damage output of Jug's Omni Slash. It gives them the ability to kill an SF there who has mech. So very much Vici Gaming just hit a perfect timing window where they're kind of at one of their strongest times of the game. They even bring an Alchemist with his Boots of Travel Radiance. Yeah, Alchemist not the tankiest hero, has no stats, he's sub 1k HP, but he shows up at the end of the fight. So CDEC have already used all their initial engagement spells to go on other heroes, to go on the Morphling, to go on the Winter Wyvern, and as a result, they just had nothing left to deal with an Alchemist, and it wasn't really the Alchemist that was the problem, it was the Jug as well as the Morphling.
Absolutely, and they were being able, I think I saw 3 waveforms throughout the course of that engagement, just ripping apart the enemy team. We're shooting towards a 10k net worth lead now. The Remnant in the bottom lane, they are trying to find Fenrir here, but he's actually pretty comfortable. Does end up dropping the Tombstone, does have his ulti out as well. The stun's going to connect onto 2 heroes. There's the Abaddon ulti, staying alive a little bit longer, but the zombies are starting to fly. I think that Fenrir might be able to soul rip to stay alive. No, not going to be able to do it. They're still all getting chased around. Look at this monstrosity. Just slow them on down. We need one more TP in to do anything, and maybe a waveform might be able to be enough if he's able to get here in time to take on down aggressive. Oh no, a Shadow Fiend as well. I think that he needs to back off at this point.
I don't know if Ice knows what back off means. He goes in, waveforms to the side, replicates out. We'll be able to juke for now, it looks like. Has another waveform soon, so should be okay. Ice Blast going on over. Make sure he gets away from that one. Does waveform to the high ground. So he gets out of there. They will lose his bottom tier 1 tower. Bit of a mistake from Vici Gaming. They should just let that one go. The Alchemist trying to TP in to save the Undying was not really the play to make there. He's just not in fighting shape. And it was a like 2v3, 2v4 scenario. So it was never going to work to their advantage.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Yeah, it did look somewhat okay for a second, but once they were able to find that Undying and he came on out with his ulti form, they just were able to burst him down too quickly. If maybe you had the Alchemist there a couple of seconds earlier mid lane, now actually, oh no, not going to catch with the snowball. Just tosses out Adaptive Strike for your Truggle. Take that, Gardner. Look at that stun. That's disgusting.
He's almost maxed it out. He's suddenly, after that fight at top, he's already level 11. So he's got level 2 Replicate, level 3 Adaptive Strike. And we've kind of talked a bit about, like, oh, maxing waveform early over getting the Adaptive Strike points. That fight you mentioned where he got 3 waveforms or something off really made a big difference.
Battle Fury down on top of the Alchemist. The A-Blast isn't actually going to connect on anybody except for the Juggernaut. He should be okay for now. You want Ice get initiated on, but he's pretty freaking tanky as well. The illusion of the Alchemist is going to go forward and just start applying that Radiance Burn in just a second here. It's just really disgusting. That's actually just the regular Alchemist up in their face now. Do we have a stun for the Ember Spirit? It kind of doesn't matter because Omni Slash is there as well. It is doling out the damage to the Abaddon. The Ember Spirit does stay alive a little bit longer. Requiem of Souls does come out, but that's actually just going to be the Death Requiem. And Burning, oh, he is pretty freaking tanky and hard to deal with. Not going to be able to kill him.
And got the Blade Fury to dodge that Requiem damage as well off, so he just didn't take enough damage early on in the fight. They killed the SF. Ember got kept alive like time and time again. The Abaddon just kept on throwing shields towards him, kept on healing him up with the Miscoil. So aggressive, didn't die, but it's like what they didn't do any damage at all to Vici Gaming. Alchemist is still by far the top net worth hero. You've got Jug and Morphling pretty much on par with the SF. Like your offlane Morphling is only 1,000 gold behind his Shadow Fiend right now, and that's with a Midas. His Ag Scepter is going to be complete at record time, it feels like. Actually goes for a 4-staff this game, so different build from what we saw last time out of the Morphling, perhaps. At least for now, happy to go for some more utility items.
Well, they are going to be able to catch up the Alchemist finally, so this is definitely going to be a kill. A little bit unfortunate, but does get off a little replicate there at the end. Apparently, he's just going to run away as well. I think it's somewhat interesting. You think about the way that this sort of game has evolved into this shape, and a lot of the really intense damage that's been coming out from Vici has been by virtue of the Juggernaut. And I think that harkens back to the fact that they had to run this Abaddon here to deal with the Morphling stun, and because of that, they weren't able to really appropriately contest the Juggernaut, and the Tusk ended up going up into the top lane and being a support there. So you're kind of in this awkward situation now where you do have the ability to deal with the Morphling stun, but you can't deal with the Juggernaut damage. So it's sort of, you know, a pick your poison situation that hasn't ended up working out super well for them.
Yeah, and heroes like Ember, SF don't want to be going for Ghost Scepters to dodge an Omni Slash, whatever it may be, so it's make life pretty difficult for them. Just like Ice will find Q on the Ancient Apparition here to TP out, and Q will be just fine.
Adaptive Strike does have a low cooldown, but not quite that low. It does have a level 3, as we mentioned earlier, and still level 11. Does have that Midas off of cooldown if he wants to go for it. They are sort of stalking here, Burning ready to potentially just jump on top of him. His Omni Slash is up. He is able to find the Shadow Fiend here. Maybe going to go for a Blade Fury into a right click. Does he have enough to take him out right here?
We'll find out soon enough. It's going to be AA looking to split the damage coming on in, and not with the mech. Blade Fury TP. Doesn't end up, I mean, costs him an Omni Slash cooldown, but it's still pressure being applied from Vici Game. I actually don't feel like that's too big a problem for Vici, because Alchemist is farming, not just with his hero, but he's got a Alchemist Illusion in the mid lane. So the way this actually works is that Alchemist gets the Greevil's Greed money from the Morphling replicate, and Morphling gets the last hit money. So it's actually Alchemist giving gold to the Morphling giving gold to the Alchemist by making a replicate of him in some ways with the Greevil's Greed.
Jeez. What a freaking weird interaction. You know, I saw another weird interaction earlier today, or another game with the Winter Wyvern and Lotus Orb, which was another one that if you Lotus Orb the Winter's Curse, as we watch Roshan fall here, and the Winter Wyvern gets it applied and then dies, it counts as the Winter Wyvern denying herself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Another little funky thing that all of these strange interactions, you kind of wonder if some of them might end up getting patched or if they're going to end up remaining the way that they are. Certainly kind of interesting. So Shadow Fiend with the Aegis now does also have that mechanism and building into the BKB very much for a team fighty centric lineup and trying to push, but they haven't really been able to make any use of the timings that we've been talking about so far. Do you feel like they're going to be able to have enough here, or is this potentially missing their window?
This is, to me, maybe their last window for a long time with Aegis, BKB on SF, and Ember Spirit's Battle Fury. They're going to hit a good kind of level right now. Their power curve is looking pretty solid, but if they don't get something done with this Aegis, I feel like their only option at that point is to play for the late game. Try and farm until your SF Ember have 4 or 5 big items. If CDEC want to end this game early and fast, they've got to do it with this Aegis by getting a ton of towers, because it's already a 10k gold deficit. They are playing from behind, as is often the nature with an Alchemist and how fast he can farm, but they haven't put any pressure onto Super, who's already got his Radiance Manta style and is just farming away constantly this game. So it's not like if they don't get all these outer towers on the map with this Aegis, they're going to lose. It just means their playstyle has to adapt and be much more geared for the late game.
Well, Burning is going to find the Ancient Apparition, and now that this stuff starts to happen, it's looking a little bit bleak. And I guess also there as well, with the Battle Fury going to be the pickup, well, we might actually end up seeing an engagement here. The stun is going to be coming out from the Alk, is going to end up hitting onto the Abaddon. No emphatic shield this point, and is going to be able to get the amplified damage coming out. The body blocks abound. FY is here as well. The Abaddon ulti has been popped now, potentially wanting to jump back in on top of the Shadow Fiend as well. The mechanism does end up getting out as well. BKB popped, going to be able to drop Fenrir roll, but we do have the Cold Embrace, keep it alive a little bit longer. A couple more raises getting tossed on out there. In the meanwhile, Juggernaut is just tearing people around from the backside, and now right click down Gardener. He's taking a lot from that Winter's Curse, is going to get stunned up again by Super, trying to chase away. There's the jump back in, and Ember Spirit now going to make something happen here. Aegis still not popped. They are really comfortable, I think, to be able to continue this fight down. Oh, there's going to be another jump forward with the Sleight of Fist, and Burning is going to have to back off here. Oh, maybe going to be able to actually kill the Shadow Fiend. Oh, this is pretty huge. All right, they burned through the Aegis, so I think that that's still kind of worth it now for Vici. They definitely came out ahead.
3 for 1. If you want to include like the Omni Slash onto the AA, it's almost like a 4 for 1 in some ways. That's also including the Aegis, but they prevent CDEC from getting anything done with the Aegis. SF's biggest issue there was he didn't have mana for the Requiem. He BKB'd, he threw a raise, and then that was his Requiem mana. So he was just sitting next to 2 or 3 heroes in pretty close proximity, but with no way of actually throwing out the Requiem of Souls. So a lot of his potential damage that fight just wasn't there. And he doesn't right-click very hard. With his BKB mech build, he needs to be using his spells in a team fight.
Maybe going to have another initiation here. We do have the Tombstone get dropped down. It is going to fall, though, and it kind of feels like FY needs to get out of here. Okay, just backing off. Nobody really wants to fight. Are they really going to go for this? All right, Abaddon gets hit by the stun. It's going to take a little bit more Radiance burn. I kind of feel like with their ultis on cooldown, they don't necessarily want to jump in. I guess Winter's Curse is back up again in 10 seconds. Jumping in is going to be Ember Spirit. We do have Winter's Curse up in a second. Izzy's going to be able to stay alive. Force Staff pushing him out of harm's way. Apparently, that's the pickup that you need. FY does have it, but not enough mana.
Yeah, the Blink Dagger on the Ember just allows him to go blinking in aggressively, all those Searing Chains, and he'll always have the Fire Remnant to escape to. Like, as he TP'd back in, he left a Fire Remnant behind, blinked forward, hit a 2-hero Searing Chain. So nice play and nice item selection from Aggressive. I really like the idea behind this Blink Dagger in this game. Considering that it's been too slow pace for the CDEC's liking, they're just going to look to kind of up the ante here. Although, as I say that, Aggressive walks into a Winter's Curse Omni Slash. Gets out of there, though. Okay. Radiance. Oh, no!
Oh! The Radiance burned the Morphling. He replicates over. No! Blink away! Oh, God.
He's not out yet. He's got TP in 3 seconds. Looks like Wyvern is headed up from the river. I don't think he's going to find Aggressive. No, he'll survive this one. Holy crap. That must... I can just picture Aggressive there, like, pooping his pants.
Oh, man, that was crazy. I can't believe he actually got away from that one. Maybe just one more right click would have been enough, but that Remnant away followed up by the turnover from the Alchemist. This is scary stuff we're seeing. Gotta be still my heart here. Also, Morphling now, only 700 gold away from finishing off the Aghanim Scepter. Undying's been able to pick up his Glimmer Cape, the Winter Wyvern as well, the Blink Dagger and the Glimmer Cape. It feels like the supports for Vici have really been getting the farm that they've needed and the space to get the items and the levels and just everything.
That's the crazy thing. Like, it's not just the carries. Like, a Wyvern with 7k net worth. Like, your support is keeping up with your opponent's offlane and farm. Your offlane is keeping up with your opponent's mid and farm. Like, there's just a huge mismatch as far as the overall farm seeing on the two teams. Look at this Alchemist Replicate. It's a walking error.
Yeah, that's good. This is not what should be happening.
Error. My hero is imbalanced. This is an error. I apologize for being too OP.
So multiple smokes again now. CDEC is going to try and see if they can potentially find somebody. This is going to be 4 heroes down in the bottom lane. But with FY and Burning both backing on out, it does seem like they're going to be safe from this one. I will also mention the several different Blink Daggers that we've been seeing. Ember Spirit has his own. Also, the Shadow Fiend has been able to pick one up also. So it's kind of a bit weird. Do you think that this is more to be able to get to position to farm more? Or you said earlier that you felt like it was to get into the initiation point for the Ember. Which is this more of?
For the Ember, it's definitely that. And I think one of the things with Blink Daggers is when you've already got like 1 or 2 Blink initiators, having follow-up Blinks become more valuable. If SF has a Blink, but he's got no one on his team to initiate, getting a Blink is not very good in SF, but when you've got a Blink Ember Spirit who can blink him for a Searing Chain, set you up for a full damage Requiem, suddenly the item becomes a lot more viable on Shadow Fiend. So I think it's because he's got good initiators on his team where this item suddenly becomes a much better option. It does mean, though, that they're less playing for the late game here. They want to keep on fighting. They want to use these items to be aggressive. I think it's very much not a farming item for the SF to kind of jump from camp to camp, but much more looking for the kills and setup it provides.
Okay, very cool. Well, hopefully going to make something happen here. Roshan does only have about a minute before it has the potential to respawn again, and we'll see what the actual timer situation is looking like. Morphling has been able to finish off his Aghanim Scepter as well, long ago finishing off the max levels in Adaptive Strike, so he's going to be stunning for days, and we'll see how well the Abaddon's going to be able to deal with this.
And our good friend the Alchemist, Octarine Core, he has completed his Naga Siren build.
That's
disgusting.
It's very frustrating.
This is the disgusting Alchemist build. He can start pulling Ag Scepters if he feels it's needed, but it looks like AC will come first at least.
That's another component too that we didn't really talk about. The Juggernaut Agony Scepter, a really great one to be able to get, and oftentimes something you just don't want to pick up on the hero because there's better items like a Sanjin Yasha early, or being able to pick on up what I guess this might end up being an MKB potentially, considering that we do have the Solar Crest up on the Abaddon.
Yeah, I think that's... there's no point to get the Daedalus like with his Blade Dance already, so yeah, MKB does make sense here.
I think that the potential here to be picking on up an Aghanim Scepter to give to your Juggernaut, it really increases the potency of that Omni Slash, and I would love to be able to see it because it's an item we haven't seen that often. I feel like, you know, this is really the opportunity to be able to make it happen when you have these clunky, funky, and wonderful builds with the Alchemist.
Oh yeah. So we'll have to see if any hybrids come into play anytime soon. Morphling can... It's only a 20-second duration is the main thing to remember. So it's much more... I think that's why he got the 4-staff before the Ags, because he's like, we're just going to farm this game, and if he got the Ags first, they weren't going to be fighting anyways. The 4-staff was just kind of like a transition item into the Ags. Often what you see, like if a carry gets a BKB too early and they're not really ready to use it, he just sits there and he could have gone for a farming item instead. So 4-staff not a farming item, but it is an item that makes him near impossible to kill. So we're seeing him now with an Ag Scepter, which to me means Vici Gaming may look to take fights 5-man soon. Alchemist is pretty much ready to go once he has that Assault Crest. Jug, probably they wait out the MKB. And then you've got MKB Jug, you've got an Alchemist with AC, you've got the hybrid from the Morphling. You take Roshan and you just take down towers. I feel CDEC will have a lot of trouble dealing with that kind of a play.
Well, and particularly because if you think about the normal way you try and deal with these things, it's by pushing out lanes and trying to make yourself, as often as possible at least, keeping those lanes pushed out and not taking the team fights, trying to farm up as much as you can. And the heroes are somewhat capable of doing that. You do have the Ember Spirit, who normally ends up going for the Boots of Travel, but this time has gone for the Treads. So his split push potential becomes a little bit less potent. You have the Shadow Fiend, who, while he does have the Blink Dagger, so he's going to be able to get to lanes quickly, isn't necessarily the person you want to be hanging out there to dry. And as we're talking about this, Ancient Apparition is going to be running into a whole world of trouble. He ends up falling down there. It just seems like their heroes aren't the best at being able to push out those lanes.
And that's when you kind of expose yourself to these kind of ganks. It's a smoke gank just for an AA. It's better him than someone like the Ember or the Shadow Fiend. The problem is now, Vici Gaming go into the Roach Pit, they take out the Scouting Sigil, and they seem so confident they can get this. They don't even care that they've just been spotted in the pit. This is going to be a free, uncontested Roshan for Vici Gaming, and their lead now up to almost 20,000 net worth.
This is a whole lot of gold being taken really very quickly. Alchemist ends up picking on up the Aegis just so that way he not only has all the money in the world, but he's never going to die. AC being flown out as well right now, I do believe, and interestingly a Clarity on the Courier. Not something that you always see there, but pretty cool to have the late game Clarity.
And late game Clarities. Maybe from earlier and he dropped it, but hey, Undying, you've got mana missing.
Yeah, there we go. Why not? Make that value happen. AC is picked up on the Shadow Fiend as well. So an AC for an AC. Also, Ember Spirit has been able to go for the little Chrysalis as well. So a little crit coming out from him. It's not looking all terrible, and they do have a lot of potential to dole out a lot of damage if people are grouped together in a way that Vici Gaming might be.
And the AC for the Shiki is very much an item to help deal with the Omni Slash. I think he knows he's the main Omni Slash target. The mech only goes so far. With an AC, he's currently on 26 armor. That's combined with the Vlad's. You put a Solar Crest on him, he's sitting on 40+ armor. So Jug will have an MKB to deal with the evasion of the Solar Crest, but you're still getting bonus armor, and that's just anything to help negate the Omni Slash damage coming out.
Here's a quick question. What if you're Morphling at this point in time, what do you feel like you go with 3,100 gold in the bank?
That is, you're going like last time I think it was a refresher. I think we see a refresher orb, so you can get a second replicate and most importantly a second hybrid.
God,
I think refresher may be the luxury item of choice, but
stun coming out on the 2 adaptive strike as well as that unstable concoction.
2 4-second stuns. The Alk with a 4-second stun, the 4.25 from the Morphling. You're just taking heroes out of the picture for such a long duration.
It's like the mini Doom.
Yeah. You stack
well,
those perfectly, then you're just like going back and forth. You Morph stuns, then Alk stuns, and then by the time the Alk stun's wearing off, Morph has another stun. You are looking at, in some ways, a mini Doom.
Well, they just walk right on up to where the Ember Spirit was, not really wanting to gank him, but just here to push on out this lane, and they make sure that they have a creep wave with them. So the Cardi Catapult does end up surviving, as does the range creep, which means that they're going to be able to push down this tower and break through that backdoor defense and potentially even move forward towards the high ground if they want. And honestly, at this point, with the Aegis still on up on the Alchemist, why not? They're moving on up here, and nobody home to contest at this point in time.
Ice. He's gone in bottom lane. He's trying to get the AA here. I don't know if he's going to be able to get this kill and get out. Has he got a TP? No, he does not. Looks like he will pay for this with his life. Bit of a flashy play. He's opening up for top lane, which is where the SF goes down. And with SF down, defending your high ground becomes near impossible.
Yeah, the Tombstone's down already. Morphling is gone, so no double Tombstone.
Space created. He took Ember and AA out of the picture. And AA's Ice Blast was used to kill that Morph, which meant they didn't have it to defend.
1200 gold swing there. The Daedalus is dealing a lot of damage, but they're already out of here. There's the Blade Fury into the TP. Everybody's just TPing away. They walk up casually. That was the most casual barracks take I've ever seen in my life. They're not afraid.
Well, with that, Vici Gaming in prime position to take game 1 of this best of 3. They've still got a minute and a half left on the Aegis if they want to go for another lane of Rax. And
so do you think that this is this really just about the farming power of being able to get the replicate up this quickly, or is that sort of the solid lane decisions and the execution that we've been seeing out of Vici? I guess what I'm wondering is can this be replicated by another team as easily as they've been able to make it happen?
I think very much the strongest part about this hero synergy is the replicate onto the Alchemist for the insane farm potential. Yesterday it seemed like, oh, they've got this really cool double Tombstone strat going with the hybrid Undying. It doesn't seem like that's a key part of the strategy. If you have a lot of team fights happening and you're in a much closer game, maybe that's where having the Undying and the double Tombstone from the hybrid can really matter. Not to mention the 10 strength decay that you get from making a hybrid of the Undying. In a game like this, though, where you're ahead, it's just insane because of the farm potential. So I think it's very much something that can be replicated by other teams, and it's not entirely about the laning setup. That Morphling just needs levels, so even if Morphling doesn't have the easy laning stage that he did because of the Undying up there, I think it still works as long as you've got something to secure some XP for the Morphling. You could replace the Undying with something like a Lich, let's say. Then you've got Dark Ritual, you pull the lane back, you get experience from that, and suddenly you're in the same position. I don't feel like this had to be an Undying. I think the hero is replaceable in this strat, and the two kind of core pieces are the Morphling and the Alchemist.
Yeah. I mean, you think about as well, just are you going to be able to jump? God, that is not what you want to have happen.
Awkward. He may just be stuck up here for good. They'll lose Ice there. Now Burning looking to go up top. He's already used the Omniscience Blade. He will get the kill. Oh, what on earth was that? That adaptive strike onto the high ground from Ice. He buys back, buys Boots of Travel just to come back. He's like, guys, we're winning this game. I don't want to be dead for the last minute or 60 seconds of this Dota game. Let me get back into it.
That's disgusting. Just so much damage. We do have the buyback by the Ember as well, so he's going to be on up here, but the Undying and Replicate is ready to party. He did already drop down his Tombstone earlier on in the fight. Remnant is going to be able to make sure that that Ember Spirit's able to get out of there, but the Adaptive Strike on top of the two. Oh, maybe going to be able to stay alive is going to be this Abaddon, but I think that it's not going to matter at the end of the day. Like, they're so far ahead right now.
Double the net worth on Alchemist than the Ember or the SF. That's as bad as it gets. Alchemist now 8k gold. He's not even spending his money. Can buy and consume the Moon Shard, can finish an Abyssal Blade with that empty item slot. Options are there for Super Who. Now, Lerma has an Aegis. Needs to be a bit careful here on the front line.
Lerma gave up is going to keep him alive. The Vici Gaming set of the Tusk does finally end up falling, as does Gressif, and the Ghost Scepter is going to be able to keep alive that Abaddon. He might not actually end up dying again this game, but I think that the rest of the barracks will never mind. Apparently Ice wants to make it happen. GG ends up getting called. He's just bouncing all over the place.
Quite the strategy, this Morphling Alchemist Undying. I I want to see more of it. It's always going to be hard to get all 3 heroes. They've now used it twice in 2 days, so going into something like Frankfurt for the Valve Major, teams will obviously be like, this is one of Vici Gaming's strats, but the fact they're showing it now during a qualifier, yeah, it's for a big LAN event, makes me think that Vici Gaming have, 1, other strats, 2, they maybe don't think this strat's as insanely good as perhaps some people are making it out to be, like myself. I mean, I just love it because it's entertaining, but they're more than willing to show the strat, which I guess suggests they have either ways to adjust it, like pick something, like I said, a Lich instead of an Undying, maybe something they can alter with it. And yeah, they probably just have crazier strats as well that they can pull out. I'm really excited to see Vici Gaming in the upcoming Nanyang Championships in Singapore and then Frankfurt as well for the major.
Absolutely. And looks like we're going to be moving on into game 2, and I have a feeling we might not be able to see all of the same heroes that we saw in this last one. Might get some new bands coming out in a few.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised as well, guys. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with game 2. I'm Gods, joined by Lyrical, and you're watching the Summit for China. Don't go anywhere.